By now, the 12 days of anime is over, as well as the actual holiday of Christmas. And how many days did I manage to do? 2. Brilliant, go me. Even if I am rather late with this upload, I still at least want to finish my 12 days of anime with this video, which will cover my last 10 anime-related experiences for this year. Just as a forewarning, many of these moments are from games or anime that didn't come out this year, and that's because I didn't spend this year keeping up with current anime, but instead rewatching some of my favorites to see if I had new perspectives on them, or because I just wanted to enjoy them again. So, with that in mind, let's dive straight into it. Number 10. RWBY Volume 4. My opinion on RWBY has always flip-flopped between liking it and feeling rather meh about it. On the one hand, you have a literally colorful cast of characters, each with their own unique weapon that likely doubles as a gun as much as it does a melee weapon, and all of these people are based on historical fiction or non-fictional figures, which are cool inspirations. On the other hand, plot progression was rather scattered in the first 2 volumes and didn't pick up until volume 3. Not to mention character development could be inconsistent or not enough time was given for some characters to grow. So, how did things end up in volume 4? Meh. Separating the 4 main characters resulted in 4 narratives they had to keep up with, and none of them were developed to their fullest potential. There were some poignant moments where you can feel the repercussions of the last volume, such as Jean rewatching Pyrrha's training videos or Cinder being completely silent and meek, but these are too few and far between. So, given my complaints with the series, why is it still on this list? Well, I still love these characters to an extent. RWBY's innocent and fun-loving nature is still charming, Weiss has become considerably less cold and more sympathetic, and Yang went through some sort of struggle in accepting her loss of an arm, even if that struggle was shorter than I'd like. There are glimpses of potential character growth in this series, and with an interesting concept of a world, I still want to see where it goes. By the way, White Rose is still OTP, and anyone who disagrees can do so respectfully. Number 9. Kingdom Hearts 0.2 Birth by Sleep, A Fragmentary Passage. Like RWBY, I have mixed feelings on this series, though Kingdom Hearts has developed some wonderful characters throughout some of its games. Add to that some relatively simple but satisfying real-time action gameplay with a wonderfully mixed world of Disney and Final Fantasy properties, not to mention some godlike soundtracks, and you've got one of my favorite game series of all time. Then you add in unnecessarily complicated layers of lore and plot, and I start to view the series with less positivity. 0.2 Birth by Sleep, A Fragmentary Passage, that frickin' name, provided a glimpse of Kingdom Hearts 3 gameplay that everyone was dying to try out after constant spin-offs that weren't really spin-offs because they advanced the plot, but still, ugh. The gameplay was as satisfying and fun as Kingdom Hearts 2, which was arguably one of the most enjoyable and fleshed out combat systems in the series. Not to mention 0.2 took fun mechanics from Birth by Sleep, such as the shot lock and command styles. When you bring this all together and put it on the PS4, which was the first time Kingdom Hearts was introduced on the 8th generation of game consoles, you had a 2 to 3 hour adventure that was pretty enjoyable and hyped you up for Kingdom Hearts 3. Still wasn't worth the $60 price tag though. Number 8. If My Heart Had Wings. If you ever watched my channel trailer, you might have noticed I took a whole 10 seconds to let Katawa Shoujo's menu music play out, and that's because I absolutely adored the tone it set for the game. It had a simple menu interface, but also the perfect track to accompany it, whether you're booting up the game for the first time or coming back to it after finishing a character's route. A menu screen with a great track will always captivate me, and that's exactly what If My Heart Had Wings did for me. As soon as you boot up the game, you'll be prompted to select whether you wanted windowed or full screen, but after that, the camera slowly pans down to this wide expanse of semi-futuristic windmills and solar panels, but an even wider expanse of a vivid blue sky, and the track that accompanies it just gives off this aura of magnificence as you admire just how vast the sky is. When the vocal part fades away and you hear that piano chime in, you feel inspired by the spectacle of it all, just like the characters in this game do. Just beautiful. This game is beautiful and does everything in its power to blow you away with its visuals. Past the aesthetic, the cast of characters are enjoyable in their own right too. You got Kotori, a girl bound to a wheelchair who becomes inspired to fly in the sky by joining the school's soaring club, Ageha, your playful but sympathetic childhood friend who supports you in your goals, and Amane, an airheaded genius in every sense of those two words. Sure, you can classify each into anime stereotypes, but they definitely have deep and convincing reasons for acting the way they do, and develop as people past that. Admittedly, I've never finished the game yet, so I can't act like I know everything about what happens in the game. But from what I played so far, I do know this game is beautiful. Beautiful aesthetic, beautiful soundtrack, beautiful character development, just beautiful. Number 7. The Hyperdimension Neptunia series. I'm kinda cheating because I got into the Hyperdimension Neptunia series in 2016, but I've been continuing to consume more of its media in 2017. The game that really solidified me staying in this fanbase, however, is the game Megadimension Neptunia V2, which is chronologically the 4th game in the franchise, or 3rd if you don't count Rebirth 1, since that's supposed to be an alternate dimension in contrast to Rebirth 2 and Onward, though Rebirth 2 and Onward never acknowledge that specific dimension, and this series gets really confusing for any outsiders. Well, to summarize, each of the game consoles are anthropomorphized as cutesy anime girls. Noir represents Sony's PlayStation consoles, Balan represents Nintendo's consoles, Verd represents Xbox consoles, and Neptune represents the Sega Neptune, an unreleased console from, well, Sega. The whole franchise is frickin' rife with game references, and I can't possibly list just how many they do. Some are blatant to the casual gamer, and some are pretty obscure and require knowledge of a console or company's history. Yet amongst the constant references, the characters themselves still remain super charming and fun to see interact with each other. In Megadimension specifically, the developers did a good job at delving into a somewhat more serious story while retaining the more likable traits of these characters. These girls are just plain fun to watch, and the designs of them are all unique and full of those references I mentioned earlier. As for gameplay, it's good enough. Nothing too deep, but fun enough to play through. Can I also make special mention for Megadimension's soundtrack? Because they had a lot of home runs for this game. Some tracks sound way too epic in scale for a Neptunia game of all games, yet they somehow totally make it work. My favorite theme has to be the CPU transformation theme, Will Be Venus. If you need a catchy song to get hyped to, this is the one. Number 6. The Girl Who Leapt Through Time. If there's one word I think of when I think of this movie, it's relatable. The Girl Who Leapt Through Time is just something that I, a teenager at heart sometimes, can so easily relate to. You have your main character Makoto who starts off the story by getting run over by a speeding train. Spoiler? Rather though, she should have died, but ends up warping back to the point before she fell in front of the train. Turns out she somehow gained the ability to leap backward through time. Like, literally leap. She has to physically jump in order to go back in time, which makes for some hilarious scenarios. So, instead of pondering the origins of such a power or wondering how she can use it for the greater good, she uses it for her own selfish gain. Doing well on tests, avoiding embarrassing accidents, and even playing matchmaking for her friends. Naturally though, the repercussions of time travel come to bite her in the bud later, as it always does in these kinds of stories, especially when she finds out that she has a limited amount of times she can leap before she runs out of them. Admittedly, the end of the film was... I won't spoil specific things about it, but it went in a direction I wasn't expecting. And not in a totally good way, but not in a totally bad way either. I'm satisfied enough with how it ended, but... Like I said earlier though, I just love this film because I love Makoto as a character. The stuff she does with this power are things I would totally do as a high schooler. Hell, I'd do some of these things now. Not to mention this film is just plain pretty to look at. Also, special props to Emily Hurst who voiced Makoto. I really loved her voice work in this role and I'm sad that she hasn't done any other anime roles besides this one. But anyway, this film honestly hits as one of my favorite anime films, as few of them as I've seen, so give it a watch. Number 5. Your Name. What can I possibly say about this film that hasn't been said already? From its breathtaking visuals, to its catchy insert songs, to its plot full of twists and turns, to its legitimately funny moments, to its... Oh, I had to take a breath there. I mean, what can I say? It even beat out Spirited Away and became the highest grossing anime film of all time. It beat Spirited Away. Spirited Away! I just find it to be a gorgeous film with a narrative that really grabs at you and throws some twists and turns you might not have expected. The whole body switching scenario the film centers on is something fun to see play out between our two main characters, as their lives are basically polar opposites of each other. One's a girl who lives out in the boonies, the other is a guy who lives in the city. Seeing them try to adjust to not only the expectations of their family members and friends, but also to the kind of lifestyles they each live is entertaining as hell. The film even becomes intense later on, the kind of intense where you're on the edge of your seat and wondering how it's all going to play out. Did I also mention the visuals? Because oh my god, I have very little that's new to contribute to the discussion of Your Name, but I cannot deny how engaging and gripping of a ride this movie was to follow. Number 4. Persona 5. I was definitely looking forward to Persona 5 when it first dropped a trailer showcasing its gameplay and art style. Whether you're a fan of the dark contrasts and stylistic menu transitions, or find them to be too invasive and in your face, it's hard to deny that Persona 5 has an identity. It definitely stands out from other games of this year, and not just in the RPG genre either. From opening the start menu to navigating the battle menus to the dialogue menus to just all the freaking menus, everything just oozes style in this game, and the harsh visuals really contribute to the topic of rebellion that permeates this game's central themes. The gameplay has also been streamlined to make fights flow both more quickly and smoothly than ever before. Most of all though, the well-developed characters and social links make a return, and nearly all of these characters are well worth your emotional investment. I could spend a little bit of time nitpicking my own personal problems with some character moments here and there, but when taken all together, Persona 5 was a hell of a memorable experience, and I look forward to any extra content they add in the future, even if that includes making them dance. Number 3. Spirited Away. If I thought I had little enough to say about Your Name, I can't imagine how much I could say about a movie like Spirited Away that hasn't been said. I remember watching this film before I even knew anime was a thing. I just gotta point out, that opening track still stays with me. So poignant and powerful, it perfectly emulates the feeling of wistfulness and contemplation that Chihiro's going through. Having to move away from home, that's extremely relatable to many children and adults out there, and hearing the same track at the end of the movie gives it a completely different mood. She has to leave her new bathhouse friends behind, similar to how she had to leave her old friends behind by moving, but instead of sulking over that, she leaves Haku and the others behind with renewed confidence that she could take on the idea of moving on. And again, that track playing emulates the sentiment so well. And those visuals, geez, nearly all of them are desktop wallpaper worthy. I'm so glad I took the time to watch this movie again this year. Number 2. K-On! I'm sure if I showcased this list on certain comment sections or forums, I'd be utterly lambasted for putting some cutesy slice-of-life anime like K-On! Above such a classic like Spirited Away. I mean, I have such a strong sentimental connection to K-On! It was the anime that got me into anime. Well, okay, Haruhi Suzumiya got me into anime, but it was K-On! That solidified my love for the medium. I'd eagerly await the next episode when it was ongoing. I'd save a bunch of pictures and fan art of it onto my hard drive. I'd spend a whole summer reading fanfiction of it and even writing some of my own. Not only that, I watched and talked about K-On! With some of my classmates, leading me to make friendships that would last from my middle school years all the way up to now. It might sound pathetic to some, but honestly, without having watched it, I'd likely have dropped anime, and I wouldn't have made such lasting friendships that I have now and treasure to this day. So okay, that's all nice and good, but what about the anime itself? Well, it's just nice. Sure, its characters can be pretty stereotypical in their interactions with each other. Yui's the airheaded ditz, Mio's the shy scaredy cat, Ritsu's the energetic go-getter, Mugi's the kind and refined Ojo-sama, and Azusa's the strict but responsible underclassman. And for an anime that centers on a band, their music takes a backseat to the typical school life shenanigans that they go through. However, it's those shenanigans and their character interactions where the show really shines. The character growth doesn't ask profound questions, but portrays a simple yet endearing friendship amongst these 5 girls. It's not an anime about their band trying to become the best in Japan or anything, but an anime about how 5 girls develop this unbreakable bond with each other by being in a band. Their characters grow in subtle but relatable ways, especially when season 2 comes around. I mean, worrying about what you're going to do in the future after college, being sad about your upperclassmen friends leaving you, both of these are struggles that any high schooler could relate to. Yet the show always retains some sense of optimism, that though graduation is inevitable, it wouldn't be the end. Their friendship was so pure and close that by the end of the anime, they didn't need to worry about whether it'd fade. Is this a little too optimistic? Maybe, but it was also portrayed convincingly enough that the final episode really hits for those who grew to like these characters. With all of these reasons in mind, rewatching K-On! This year reminds me exactly why this anime is my favorite of all time. Number 1. What could possibly top my favorite anime of all time, and the anime that actually got me into anime? How about my trip to Yokohama and Tokyo in August of 2017? I get it, it's a stretch. This list is supposed to be of anime-related moments, and covering games like Literature Club and shows like RWBY was already stretching it, but after staying silent about my trip to Japan for months after mentioning it in an update video, I knew this trip would undoubtedly be my number 1 spot for the 12 days of anime. So yes, I was lucky enough to be able to visit Japan because I have some family there, which is still surprising to me, even now. Using trains to get everywhere, hearing the hustle and bustle of Japanese urban life around me, even getting to use the bidets where the toilets squirt water into your butt, even these seemingly trivial and mundane things were amazing to me. I could spend the whole length of this video talking about the places I went to, from the Tokyo Skytree to Tsurugaoka Hachimangu Shrine to Akihabara to Shibuya. There's just so much I could talk about. Given my affinity for anime, I was naturally geeking out over all the anime stores I visited. Seriously, Studio Ghibli stores are the best. But past that, my cousin was a great tour guide and took us to non-anime related places that showcased other aspects of Japanese culture, such as the aforementioned Hachimangu Shrine. The architecture, the customs and traditions performed there, everything just captivated my interest, and I couldn't be happier that I got the opportunity to actually go to Japan. Directly exposing myself to Japanese culture by actually going to the country was such an amazing and unforgettable experience, and it definitely deserves a number 1 spot. And with that, my own 12 Days of Anime series has come to an end. I may not have watched much anime that came out this year, but revisiting some of my favorites helped to remind me why I got into this medium and why I still love to talk about it. If you stuck around to the end of this video, I seriously applaud you and seriously apologize for saving it all for one video. I normally don't make these kind of videos detailing my opinions on some anime and games, let alone a 10-minute plus one such as this, so I really mean it when I say thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful year. Peace.